Hey there, future anatomy whizzes! Ever stop to think about how incredibly complex and utterly fascinating your own body is? Seriously, it's like this amazing self-regulating machine that lets you do everything from binge-watching your favorite shows to, well, understanding how it all works. Today, we're diving into 3 super important systems that make you, you. We'll explore the integumentary system. That's your skin, hair, and nails, your body's first line of defense. Then we'll uncover the secrets of the skeletal system, the very framework that supports you. And finally, we'll look at articulations, or joints, the ingenious connectors that allow you to move. It's going to be a journey, but a totally worthwhile one. Promise. Let's start with the integumentary system, which is way more than just a body glove. Think of it as your personal bodyguard, shield, and climate control unit all rolled into one. Its primary role is protection from nasty bacteria, harmful UV rays, and even physical damage. But it also helps regulate your body temperature, whether you're sweating it out on a hot day or trying to stay warm. It's packed with sensory receptors, so you can feel a gentle breeze or the warning pain of a hot stove. And believe it or not, your skin even helps produce vitamin D, which is crucial for healthy bones. So yeah, your skin is a multitasking marvel, made up of specialized cells working in concert. The main parts of this system include the skin itself, which has distinct layers we'll get into, plus its accessories like hair, nails, and various glands. The cells involved are pretty cool too. We've got keratinocytes, the main cells that produce keratin, a tough protein that gives skin its strength. Then there are melanocytes, the pigment-producing cells that determine your skin color and protect against sun damage. You'll also find Langerhans cells, or dendritic cells, which are like immune system scouts, and Merkel cells, which are involved in your sense of touch. Each of these tiny workers has a crucial job in keeping your largest organ functioning perfectly, day in and day out. Now, when we talk about skin, we're technically referring to 2 main layers, the epidermis and the dermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer, the part you see and touch. It's our waterproof barrier and creates our skin tone. Beneath it lies the dermis, a much thicker layer that's home to hair follicles, sweat glands, nerves, and blood vessels. It's the busy hub of skin activity. Below the dermis is the hypodermis, or subcutaneous tissue. While not technically part of the skin, it's super important as it anchors the skin to underlying muscles, provides insulation, and acts as a shock absorber. It's mostly made of adipose tissue, which is fat. So epidermis and dermis are the skin proper, with the hypodermis as their supportive best friend. Let's zoom in on that epidermis we just talked about. This outer shield isn't just one uniform sheet. It's made up of several distinct layers of cells, each with a specific role in the life cycle of your skin. For most of your body, we talk about thin skin, which has 4 main layers. Starting from the deepest and moving outwards, we have the stratum basal, or stratum germinativum, where new skin cells are born. Above that is the stratum spinosum, giving strength and flexibility. Next comes the stratum granulosum, where cells start to flatten and produce more keratin. Finally, the outermost layer is the stratum corneum, composed of dead, flattened cells full of keratin, forming a tough, protective barrier. It's like a microscopic, constantly renewing wall. Now, some parts of your body, like the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet, experience a lot more friction and wear. These areas have thick skin. What makes it thick? Well, it has an extra layer in the epidermis, sandwiched between the stratum granulosum and the stratum corneum. This 5th layer is called the stratum lucidum, and it's made of dead, flattened keratinocytes that are packed with a clear protein called elidin. This additional layer provides extra toughness and protection for these high-use areas. So, whether it's thin or thick, your epidermis is perfectly adapted to the needs of that specific body part. Pretty neat, huh? So, what gives our skin its unique color? It's primarily due to a pigment called melanin, produced by those melanocyte cells we mentioned earlier, which are mostly found in the stratum basal of the epidermis. Everyone has roughly the same number of melanocytes, but the amount and type of melanin they produce and how it's distributed varies greatly. More melanin means darker skin, and it provides more protection against UV radiation from the sun. Other factors like carotene, an orange-yellow pigment from foods like carrots, and hemoglobin, the red pigment in blood visible through fairer skin, also contribute to the overall hue. It's a beautiful spectrum, all thanks to cellular chemistry. Sometimes, melanocytes cluster together, forming what we know as moles or nevi. Most moles are harmless, just little pigmented spots on the skin. However, it's super important to keep an eye on them for any changes. as this could be a sign of melanoma, a serious type of skin cancer. A helpful way to remember what to look for is the ABCD rule. A stands for asymmetry, one half doesn't match the other. B is for border irregularity, edges are ragged, notched, or blurred. C is for color, uneven color with shades of brown, black, tan, red, white, or blue. And D is for diameter, larger than 6 millimeters, about the size of a pencil eraser, though some melanomas can be smaller. If you notice any of these, it's always best to get it checked by a doctor. Ever wondered what makes your fingerprints so unique that they can be used for identification? Those distinctive patterns of ridges and whorls on your fingertips, palms, and soles are formed by the dermal papillae, which are upward projections of the dermis that interlock with the epidermis. These ridges, also known as epidermal ridges or friction ridges, increase friction and enhance our grip. The pattern is genetically determined and forms during fetal development. And get this, even identical twins have different fingerprints. This uniqueness is why they're such a reliable tool in forensics, a tiny testament to our individual biological makeup. It's like your own personal, unforgeable signature. Now, for all these skin cells to work together and form a cohesive barrier, they need to be connected. This is where cell-to-cell junctions come in. Think of them as the rivets, zippers, and secret passageways between cells. Tight junctions are like super strong seals between cells, forming an impermeable barrier, preventing molecules from passing through the intercellular space. You find these where you need to keep things separate, like in the lining of your bladder. Desmosomes act like spot welds or buttons, anchoring cells together and providing mechanical strength, crucial in tissues that stretch, like skin and heart muscle. Then there are gap junctions, which are like tiny tunnels or channels connecting the cytoplasm of adjacent cells, allowing ions and small molecules to pass directly from one cell to another for quick communication, essential in heart muscle for coordinated contractions. Our skin is also equipped with some amazing accessories, which are actually derivatives of the epidermis that extend down into the dermis. These include various glands. Sweat glands or sudoriferous glands come in two main types: eccrine, which are all over and help cool us down, and apocrine, found in axillary and anogenital areas, producing a thicker secretion. Hair follicles are structures from which hairs grow, each associated with sebaceous glands that secrete an oily substance called sebum to lubricate the hair and skin. Then there are specialized glands. Mammary glands in the breasts are modified sweat glands that produce milk. And ceruminous glands in the ear canal are also modified sweat glands that produce cerumen, or earwax, to trap debris and protect the eardrum. Each has a distinct role in maintaining our body's well-being. Sometimes you might encounter conditions related to these skin accessories. For instance, hirsutism is a condition characterized by excessive growth of coarse, dark hair in women, in a male-like pattern on the face, chest, and back. This is often linked to an overproduction of androgens, which are male hormones, or an increased sensitivity of hair follicles to these hormones. It can be associated with underlying medical conditions like polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS. It highlights how interconnected our body systems are, where hormonal balances can visibly manifest on our skin and hair, reminding us that everything is finely tuned. It's a good example of how an imbalance can have noticeable effects. Let's move on from our amazing skin to the incredible framework that lies beneath it, the skeletal system. This system is far more than just a rack to hang your muscles on. It's a dynamic, living structure with a multitude of critical functions. Its most obvious job is support. It provides the structural framework for the body, supporting soft tissues and providing points of attachment for most skeletal muscles. It also plays a vital role in protection. Think of how your skull protects your brain, or your rib cage guards your heart and lungs. And of course, the skeletal system is essential for movement. Muscles attach to bones, and when they contract, they pull on the bones, allowing us to walk, run, type, and wave hello. Beyond these, your skeleton is also a site for mineral homeostasis, especially for calcium and phosphorus. Bones store these minerals and release them into the bloodstream when needed by other parts of the body. It's like a mineral bank. Another super important function happening within certain bones is blood cell production, a process called hematopoiesis. Red bone marrow, found in specific parts of some bones, is where red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets are born. And finally, bones also store triglycerides or fats in yellow bone marrow, which can be used as an energy source. So, your 206 or so bones are incredibly busy and vital for overall health. Let's take a closer look at a typical long bone, like the femur or thigh bone or humerus, the upper arm bone. These bones are longer than they are wide and have several distinct features. The long shaft of the bone is called the diaphysis. At each end of the diaphysis, you'll find the epiphyses, which are the expanded ends of the bone. The epiphyses are typically covered with a smooth, slippery layer of articular cartilage where the bone forms a joint with another bone, reducing friction. The region where the diaphysis meets the epiphysis in a growing bone is the epiphyseal plate, or growth plate, which becomes the epiphyseal line in adult bones. The hollow space within the diaphysis is the medullary cavity, filled with yellow bone marrow in adults. Bones aren't uniformly solid, they're generally composed of two types of bone tissue, compact bone and spongy bone. Compact bone is the dense, hard outer layer that provides strength and protection. It looks solid to the naked eye, but is actually riddled with microscopic passageways. Spongy bone, also known as cancellous or trabecular bone, is found inside the compact bone, particularly at the ends of long bones and in the middle of flat, short, and irregular bones. It's much lighter and less dense, consisting of an irregular latticework of thin, needle-like or flat pieces of bone called trabeculae, or spicules when they are more needle-like. The spaces between these trabeculae are often filled with red bone marrow, making spongy bone a key site for blood cell production. Section 5, Bone Deep, Anatomy, Cells, and What Makes Them Strong. So let's dive a little deeper into compact bone. Its structural unit is the osteon, or sometimes called the Haversian system. Imagine osteons as these tiny, weight-bearing pillars, all lined up parallel to the long axis of the bone, and that alignment is what gives the bone its immense strength. Each osteon is basically a cylinder made up of concentric layers of bone matrix, which we call lamellae, and these surround a central canal, or Haversian canal. This central canal is super important. It acts as a crucial passageway, housing blood vessels, nerves, and lymphatic vessels that supply the bone cells. You can think of it like the main utility pipe running through each osteon, keeping everything nourished and connected. Now, this intricate organization is what makes compact bone so incredibly strong, but not overly heavy for its function. Within these osteons, nestled in these small cavities called lacunae, just think of lacunae as tiny apartments, are the mature bone cells, which are the osteocytes. Radiating out from the lacunae are even tinier channels called canaliculi. These canaliculi connect lacunae to each other and to the central canal, forming this vast network. Osteocytes extend their cytoplasmic processes through these canaliculi, which allows them to communicate with each other, receive nutrients, and remove waste products. It's honestly like a microscopic transport system, making sure that even the cells buried deep within the hard bone matrix stay alive and functional. This communication network is absolutely vital for maintaining bone health and for responding to stress. Now, let's compare the major parts of a long bone again. The diaphysis is the long, cylindrical main portion of the bone, basically its shaft. It's mostly made up of a thick collar of compact bone that surrounds the central medullary cavity. The epiphyses are the proximal and distal ends of the bone, and they're typically more expanded than the diaphysis. They consist of an outer layer of compact bone and an interior of spongy bone. The epiphyses are really important for forming joints and for transferring weight across those joints. So, the diaphysis gives leverage and support, while the epiphyses provide areas for articulation and often house red bone marrow, which is essential for blood cell production. Covering the outer surface of bones, except at the articular surfaces, is a tough, double-layered membrane called the periosteum. The outer fibrous layer is made of dense, irregular connective tissue, and the inner osteogenic layer contains bone-forming cells. The periosteum is rich in nerves and blood vessels, provides an attachment point for tendons and ligaments, and is essential for bone growth in width, repair, and nutrition. Lining the inner surfaces of bone, including the medullary cavity and the trabeculae of spongy bone, is a delicate membrane called the endosteum. This layer also contains bone-forming and bone-resorbing cells and is active during bone growth, repair, and remodeling. It's kind of like the wallpaper on the inside of the bone. At the ends of long bones where they meet to form joints, the epiphyses are covered by articular cartilage. This is a smooth, white, slippery tissue, specifically hyaline cartilage. Its main job is to reduce friction between the bones during movement and to absorb shock. Think of it like a Teflon coating on a pan. or the shock absorbers in your car. Unlike most other tissues, articular cartilage doesn't have its own blood supply. It's avascular, or nerves. This means if it gets damaged, it has a very limited ability to repair itself, which is why joint injuries involving cartilage can be so problematic and often lead to conditions like osteoarthritis later in life. Now let's talk about the cells that make and maintain bone tissue. There are three main types you need to know. Osteoblasts are the bone-building cells. They synthesize and secrete the organic components of the bone matrix, like collagen fibers, and initiate calcification. You'll find them on bone surfaces, like under the periosteum and endosteum. Once an osteoblast becomes surrounded by the matrix it has secreted, it matures into an osteocyte. Osteocytes are the main cells in bone tissue, maintaining its daily metabolism, such as the exchange of nutrients and wastes with the blood. They reside in lacunae. Then there are osteoclasts, the bone-resorbing cells. These giant multinucleated cells break down bone matrix, a process called resorption, which is crucial for remodeling, repair, and releasing calcium into the blood. The inorganic part of the bone matrix is largely made of a mineral salt called hydroxyapatite. This is a complex crystal primarily composed of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate. Hydroxyapatite crystals deposit around the collagen fibers of the organic matrix, a process called calcification or mineralization. It's this hydroxyapatite that gives bone its characteristic hardness and ability to resist compression. The collagen fibers, on the other hand, provide bone with its flexibility and tensile strength, preventing it from becoming too brittle. So, it's the combination of hard minerals and flexible collagen that makes bone such a remarkably strong yet resilient material, perfectly suited for its supportive and protective roles. Osteoclasts, as we mentioned, are responsible for bone resorption. These specialized cells originate from hematopoietic stem cells, the same ones that form white blood cells. They settle on bone surfaces and form a sealed compartment. Then, they release powerful lysosomal enzymes and acids onto the bone surface. The acids dissolve the mineral part, hydroxyapatite, and the enzymes digest the organic matrix, collagen. This process carves out tiny tunnels or depressions in the bone. Resorption is not just about destruction, it's a vital part of normal bone maintenance, repair of microdamage, and shaping bones during growth. It also plays a key role in releasing calcium from bone into the bloodstream to maintain blood calcium levels. Deep within the spongy bone of certain bones, like the pelvis, ribs, sternum, vertebrae, and the ends of long bones, we find red bone marrow. This amazing tissue is responsible for hematopoiesis, the production of all types of blood cells, red blood cells, or erythrocytes, that carry oxygen, white blood cells, or leukocytes, that fight infection, and platelets, or thrombocytes, that help with blood clotting. In newborns, all bone marrow is red. As we age, much of the red marrow in the medullary cavities of long bones is replaced by yellow bone marrow, which is mostly fat. However, red marrow persists in those specific locations throughout life, continuously replenishing our blood supply. Bone formation or ossification, also called osteogenesis, happens in two main ways. Intramembranous ossification is when bone develops directly from or within fibrous connective tissue membranes. This is how flat bones of the skull, most facial bones, the mandible or lower jaw, and the clavicle or collarbone are formed. Endochondral ossification is the more common method, where bone replaces an existing hyaline cartilage model. Most bones in the body, including long bones, are formed this way. In both processes, osteoblasts play the key role of depositing bone matrix. During growth, a delicate balance between bone formation by osteoblasts and bone resorption by osteoclasts allows bones to grow in size and shape correctly. Ever wondered how exercise keeps your bones strong? It's all about mechanical stress. When you exercise, your muscles pull on your bones, and the impact of activities like running or jumping puts stress on them. Bones respond to this stress by becoming denser and stronger. This is explained by Wolff's Law, which basically states that bone remodels in response to the mechanical stresses it experiences. So, more stress leads to more bone deposition by osteoblasts in those areas, making the bone thicker and stronger where it's needed most. Conversely, lack of mechanical stress, like during prolonged bed rest or in astronauts in space, can lead to bone loss. So staying active is literally building better bones. Bone growth in length occurs at the epiphyseal plate, a layer of hyaline cartilage in the metaphysis of a growing bone. Cartilage cells here divide and grow, and then the older cartilage is replaced by bone. This process is heavily influenced by growth hormone from the pituitary gland, as well as thyroid hormones and sex hormones. Around ages 18 to 25, the epiphyseal plates ossify completely, meaning all the cartilage is replaced by bone and longitudinal growth stops. What remains is the epiphyseal line, a bony scar indicating where the plate used to be. Once the epiphyseal line appears, a person can no longer grow taller. So the plate is for growing, and the line means growth is done. Let's talk about what happens when bones aren't quite behaving. Fractures. A fracture is any break in a bone. There are many types, but two common descriptive terms are compound or open and comminuted. A compound fracture is one where the broken ends of the bone protrude through the skin, which is serious because of the risk of infection and damage to surrounding tissues. A comminuted fracture is when the bone is splintered, crushed, or broken into several pieces at the site of impact. These often require surgery to realign the fragments. The repair process for a fracture involves several steps. First, a hematoma or blood clot forms, then a fibrocartilaginous callus bridges the gap, followed by a bony callus, and finally, bone remodeling occurs to restore the original shape. Unfortunately, bone health can decline, leading to conditions like osteoporosis. This is a disease where bone resorption by osteoclasts outpaces bone deposition by osteoblasts, leading to a decrease in bone mass and density. Bones become porous, brittle, and much more susceptible to fractures, especially in the hips, spine, and wrists. It's particularly common in postmenopausal women. This is because estrogen, a female hormone, normally helps to maintain bone density by restraining osteoclast activity. After menopause, estrogen levels drop significantly, which can lead to increased bone loss. Maintaining calcium and vitamin D intake, along with weight-bearing exercise throughout life, can help prevent or slow its progression. Two other conditions related to bone mineralization are rickets and osteomalacia. Both are caused by inadequate mineralization of bone, often due to a deficiency in vitamin D, which is essential for calcium absorption. Rickets occurs in children whose bones are still growing. The defective mineralization leads to soft, weak bones that can bend and deform under the body's weight, causing bowed legs and deformities of the pelvis, skull, and rib cage. Osteomalacia, sometimes called adult rickets, affects adults. In osteomalacia, newly formed bone during remodeling fails to calcify properly. This results in painful, tender bones that are prone to fracture. The key difference is the timing. Rickets affects growing bones in children, while osteomalacia affects mature bones in adults. Now, let's shift our focus to how bones connect. Joints, also known as articulations or arthroses. These are sites where two or more bones meet. Joints are classified structurally based on the type of connective tissue that binds the bones together and whether a joint cavity is present. Fibrous joints are held together by dense fibrous connective tissue, rich in collagen fibers. There's no synovial cavity, and they typically permit little to no movement, synarthroses or amphiarthroses. Examples include the sutures between the bones of the skull, which are immovable in adults. Another type is a syndesmosis, where bones are connected by a ligament or a sheet of fibrous tissue, allowing slight movement, like the distal tibiofibular joint. A gomphosis is a specialized fibrous joint that anchors a tooth to its socket in the jawbone, kind of like a peg in a socket. Let's clarify some terms related to joint fusion and types. A synostosis is a joint where two bones, initially separate, fuse together completely by bone tissue, becoming a single bone. For example, the sutures of the skull in an adult eventually become synostoses. A syndesmosis, as mentioned, is a fibrous joint where bones are connected by ligaments, allowing for some give, like between the tibia and fibula at the ankle. A symphysis is a type of cartilaginous joint where the bones are connected by a broad, flat disc of fibrocartilage. These joints allow for slight movement and are found in places like the pubic symphysis, joining the two pubic bones, and the intervertebral discs between vertebrae. The root canal of a tooth, by the way, isn't a joint itself, but the space within the root of a tooth containing pulp tissue. The joint is the gomphosis holding the tooth. Symphyseal joints or symphyses are a type of cartilaginous joint. The key feature is that the articulating bones are covered with hyaline cartilage, but they are connected by a pad or disc of fibrocartilage. This fibrocartilage acts as a shock absorber and allows for a limited amount of movement. Amphiarthrosis. Prime examples include the pubic symphysis, located at the front of the pelvis, connecting the right and left pubic bones. This joint softens and becomes more flexible during pregnancy to allow for childbirth. Another crucial set of symphyseal joints are the intervertebral joints, where fibrocartilaginous intervertebral discs connect the bodies of adjacent vertebrae, providing cushioning and flexibility to the spine. The most common and most movable type of joint in the body is the synovial joint. These joints are characterized by the presence of a synovial cavity or joint cavity filled with synovial fluid, a lubricating fluid secreted by the synovial membrane. The ends of the articulating bones are covered with smooth articular cartilage. The entire joint is typically enclosed by an articular capsule. There are 6 main types of synovial joints, classified by the shape of their articulating surfaces and the types of movement they permit: plane or gliding, hinge, like an elbow, pivot for rotation, condylar with oval surfaces, saddle like the thumb, and ball and socket like the shoulder and hip, allowing a wide range of motion. To wrap up our journey, let's consider how these systems work together. Your skin protects, your bones support, and your joints, powered by muscles, allow you to interact with the world. The acetabulum, for example, is the deep cup-shaped socket on the lateral aspect of the hip bone, which receives the head of the femur to form the hip joint, a classic ball and socket synovial joint. Muscles often work across these joints like lever systems. A lever is a rigid bar, a bone, that moves on a fixed point called a fulcrum, or a joint. The effort, applied by muscle contraction, moves a resistance or load, which could be a part of the body or an object. An example of a first-class lever is when you extend your head, like nodding yes. The fulcrum is the atlanto-occipital joint, the effort is from posterior neck muscles, and the load is the weight of the anterior part of your head. Pretty amazing biomechanics, right? This intricate dance of skin, bones, and joints is what makes life and movement possible. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, because your body is an endless source of wonder.